Welcome to Nightmare Files. This summer may have brought heat waves, road trips, and long nights, but it also left behind chilling memories. Tonight, I'll be sharing 5 of the scariest true stories from this summer. These aren't urban legends. These are stories from real people told in their own words. Turn off the lights and let's begin. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another nightmare. Story 1. The Rest Stop. It was late July when Daniel and his girlfriend decided to drive cross-country. They wanted an adventure, a chance to see the States before college started again. Most of their trip went smoothly. But somewhere in the middle of Nebraska, after midnight, they pulled into a nearly empty rest stop to stretch their legs. The air was heavy with summer heat, the kind that clings to your skin. The rest stop had one dim streetlight and 2 vending machines humming in the dark. They were the only car there, or so they thought. As Daniel walked toward the vending machine, he noticed movement in the corner of his eye. At first, he brushed it off as a moth fluttering near the light. But when he turned, he saw something else. A man, tall, thin, standing at the edge of the trees, just staring. Daniel froze. The man didn't move closer, didn't wave, didn't say a word, just stood there, his silhouette barely visible against the tree line. Daniel called out, "Hey, you all right?" No response, just silence. His girlfriend urged him to get back in the car, but Daniel, trying to act tough, lingered for a moment longer. Then, the man took a single step forward. That was enough. Daniel bolted back to the car, slammed the door, and locked it. They drove off immediately, tires screeching against the pavement. But when Daniel checked the rearview mirror, his stomach dropped. The man was now standing in the center of the rest stop lot, watching them drive away. A week later, out of curiosity, Daniel looked up reports from that area. He found news of a missing hitchhiker. The description? Tall, thin, last seen near a rest stop off that same highway. To this day, Daniel wonders if what he saw was a man or the shadow of someone who never made it home. Story 2. The Cabin Lights. In early August, 3 friends, Megan, Tyler, and Josh, rented a cabin near the Smoky Mountains. They wanted a cheap getaway before summer ended. The cabin was small but cozy, tucked deep into the woods, with no neighbors for miles. During the day, it felt peaceful, but at night, the silence became overwhelming. On their second night, after grilling outside, they stayed up late playing cards. Around midnight, Megan excused herself to the back porch for a smoke. She had only been out there for a few minutes when she rushed back inside, pale and trembling. "There are lights," she whispered. Josh and Tyler followed her to the porch. At first, they didn't see anything. Then, in the distance, between the trees, faint orbs of light flickered on and off, not like flashlights, not like lanterns. The lights moved too smoothly, weaving through the forest as if they were floating. "Probably other campers," Tyler said, trying to sound confident. But the longer they watched, the stranger it felt. The lights weren't steady. They pulsed in a rhythm, almost like they were communicating with each other. The 3 friends shut off all the cabin lights and peered through the windows. The orbs drew closer, 5 of them hovering silently between the trees, just beyond the tree line. Tyler grabbed a flashlight and shined it toward the forest. The orbs blinked out. Instantly, gone. The friends laughed nervously, convincing themselves it was nothing. They tried to sleep, but at around 3 in the morning, Megan woke to a sound at the back door, a soft tapping, then a low hum. She froze in her bed, heart pounding. The tapping grew louder, now on the windows. Josh woke up too, and swore he saw a faint glow seeping through the curtains. They didn't sleep the rest of the night. At sunrise, the lights were gone. But when they went outside, they found something in the dirt just beyond the cabin. Dozens of small circles burned into the ground, perfectly shaped, perfectly aligned. They left the cabin that afternoon, cutting their trip short, and none of them have been back to the Smoky Mountains since. Story 3. the summer job. In June, a college student named Alex picked up a summer job at a small-town grocery store. The pay wasn't great, but he needed extra cash before classes started again. The store was quiet, usually closing at 11 p.m., and most nights, Alex worked alone stocking shelves after hours. The first couple of weeks were uneventful. The hum of the freezers, the squeak of the carts, and the occasional flicker of the fluorescent lights were his only companions. But one night in late July, everything changed. Around 10:30, Alex noticed an elderly man wandering the aisles. He wore an old brown suit, wrinkled and outdated, like something from the 1950 seconds. Alex asked if he needed help, but the man didn't answer. He just kept walking slowly, pushing an empty cart, his shoes clicking against the tiles. When Alex went to the register at closing time, the man was gone. The cart was left in the middle of an aisle. Alex shrugged it off, locked up, and went home. The next night, the same man appeared again. Same suit, same empty cart. Silent. This time, Alex followed him down the frozen food section. He turned the corner, and the aisle was empty. The man had vanished. The only sound was the buzzing of the overhead lights. By the third night, Alex was terrified of seeing him again. He begged his manager to let him leave early, but she laughed and said, "Don't let the night shift spook you." That night, Alex heard footsteps echoing through the store after closing. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. He turned off his scanner, listening. "Hello?" he called out, his voice trembling. No answer. Just the footsteps. He grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight, sweeping it down the aisle. At the far end stood the old man motionless, staring straight at him. His face was pale, sunken, and his eyes completely black. The lights overhead began to flicker, buzzing louder and louder until the entire store went dark. In the pitch black, Alex heard the wheels of the cart squealing against the floor, moving closer and closer. When the lights finally snapped back on, the aisle was empty. The cart was overturned in the middle of the floor. Alex quit the job the next morning. But a week later, while reading the local paper, he came across a story that made his stomach drop. Decades ago, in the very same store, a man had suffered a fatal heart attack while shopping late at night. The description matched the old man exactly. Brown suit, wrinkled, 1952nd style. And ever since then, employees whispered about the man with the empty cart. Story 4. The River Party. Every summer in a small town in Texas, local teenagers gather by the riverbank to celebrate the end of the school year. It's tradition, a bonfire, loud music, and kids swimming under the stars. This past June was no different. A group of friends, Jenna, Marcus, Luis, and Claire, arrived late, around 11 p.m. By then, the fire was roaring, and the air was filled with laughter and the smell of smoke. They set up blankets and joined the fun. After an hour, Jenna wandered closer to the water. The river was dark, the surface reflecting only slivers of moonlight. That's when she saw it. A figure standing knee-deep in the water on the opposite bank. At first, she thought it was another kid, but the longer she looked, the stranger it became. The figure was too still. Its head tilted unnaturally to one side. Its arms hung stiff at its sides. And even from across the river, Jenna swore she could see its eyes glowing faintly white. She pointed it out to Marcus, but when he looked, the figure was gone. The group brushed it off and went back to the fire. But Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Around 2 a.m., when most of the kids had left, the four friends decided to go for a swim. The river was cold, the current slow. They laughed and splashed each other, the bonfire crackling behind them. Then, Luis froze. "Did you feel that?" he whispered. Something had brushed against his leg, something large. They all swam back toward shore, but Claire let out a scream. Something had grabbed her ankle and yanked her under. She thrashed wildly, resurfacing with a gasp, eyes wide with terror. The others pulled her to safety. Her ankle was red and bruised, as if gripped by a hand. But when Marcus shined his phone flashlight over the water, there was nothing there. Just ripples spreading across the black surface. The group ran back to their blankets, shivering. As they packed their things, Jenna glanced back at the opposite bank. The figure was there again, standing, watching. This time, it raised one arm slowly, as if waving goodbye. They left the river that night and never went back. Weeks later, Jenna mentioned what happened to her grandmother, who lived in the area her whole life. Her grandmother's face grew pale. She said there's an old legend about the river that decades ago, a boy drowned during one of those summer parties. His body was never recovered. Locals say his spirit lingers, waiting in the water, jealous of those who survived the night he didn't. And if you see him watching, it means he's already chosen who he'll try to take next. Story 5. The Motel Room. In late July, a traveling salesman named Daniel was driving through rural Arkansas. It was late, close to midnight, when he decided to stop for the night. He pulled into a run-down roadside motel, the kind with buzzing neon signs, a half-empty parking lot, and a clerk who barely looked up from his newspaper. Daniel checked in and was given room 6. The key was old, heavy brass, and the door stuck when he tried to open it. Inside, the room smelled faintly of mildew. The curtains were thin, barely covering the cracked window. But Daniel was exhausted, so he set his suitcase down and collapsed onto the bed. Around 2 a.m., he woke to a sound. At first, he thought it was the pipes, a slow, steady drip. Then he realized it was coming from the bathroom. He flipped on the lamp and crossed the room. The bathroom sink was bone dry, but the sound persisted. Drip, drip, drip. He leaned closer, trying to pinpoint it. That's when he saw it. A dark stain was spreading across the ceiling above the shower. Thick, wet drops of something red fell steadily onto the tile. Daniel staggered back, heart hammering. He grabbed the phone to call the front desk, but the line was dead. The dripping grew louder, faster. He yanked open the door to leave, but the knob wouldn't turn. It felt locked from the outside. Then came the knock. 3 slow, heavy bangs against the bathroom door. Daniel froze. His voice cracked as he shouted, "Who's there?" No answer, just silence. The banging started again, harder this time. The ceiling bulged, the red liquid dripping faster, splattering the floor. Desperate, Daniel threw his shoulder against the door until it burst open. He stumbled into the parking lot barefoot, gasping for air. The clerk was gone. The office was dark. He jumped in his car and sped off, not stopping until sunrise. Later, when he told a local sheriff what happened, the man looked grim. He explained that years ago, room 6 had been the scene of a brutal murder. A salesman, just like Daniel, had been killed in the bathroom. The body was discovered hanging from the ceiling, and ever since, travelers swore they heard dripping at night, like blood falling from the rafters. Daniel never stayed in a roadside motel again, and to this day, he refuses to drive through Arkansas after dark. That concludes tonight's video. 5 of the scariest true stories from this summer. If you enjoyed these stories and want more true nightmare content, don't forget to subscribe to Nightmare Files. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story.